In the thumping heart of Lagos, where downfall horns scream like street prophets, orcas chant their trade songs, and the thick scent of suya and diesel floats in the air, lived a man named Chief Shuka Obasi. He was the sort of man that commanded attention just by walking into a room, not because of his height or handsomeness, but because of what he represented: power, money, and the grit of a self-made man. Chuka was a native of Anambra, but Lagos had baptized him in its fires. He came to the city with nothing more than a bag of thrift clothes and a stubborn belief in his own destiny. For years, he hustled under the scorching sun and pelting rains, fixing cars under the Ojuelegba Bridge. It was during those years he met Adaeze, a beautiful, soft-spoken woman from Enugu, who sold akara nearby. They shared more than meals and borrowed dreams. They shared struggle. Their love was a covenant built in poverty. Adaeze stood beside Shuka through the lean years, carrying burdens on her back and hope in her belly. When Shuka got his big break, a juicy contract to maintain a government fleet, it was Adaeze who secured the first meeting through a former classmate in civil service. That deal transformed everything. Within 5 years, Shuka transitioned from green-stained shirt to crisp white kaftan. His business, Obasi Motors, grew from a one-man workshop to multiple outlets in Ikeja, Lekki, and Ajah. He built their dream home in Surulere, sent their children to elite schools, and even founded his village community hall. Lagos knew his name. Socialites quoted his presence. Pastors quoted the story as proof of divine breakthrough. But while Lagos celebrated him, Shuka's heart began to drift. It started small, like missed family dinners, unanswered calls, unexplained weekend trips. Adaeze noticed the subtle changes. His laughter grew scarce. His once affectionate touches turned cold. The man who once recited proverb at the dinner table now scrolled endlessly through his phone, smiling at messages he wouldn't show her. She confronted him once. Shuka, I know something is wrong. You barely speak to me. You don't even see me anymore. He responded with irritation. Adaeze, must everything be about you? I'm stressed. You wouldn't understand. The wall between them thickened. Then came the night of the lipstick stain. Adaeze was certain laundry when she saw it. A bold red smear on the collar of his white senator wear. Her fingers trembled as she held it shut. A strange perfume, unfamiliar and expensive, clung to the fabric like guilt. She didn't cry. Instead, she cooked his favorite bitter leaf soup, set the table with his favorite wine, and waited. He didn't come home that night. The next morning, he walked in, smelling of another world. Neighbors whispered. Market woman gave her pitiful looks. Even their gatesman, Musa, fumbled when he called her Madam Number One, before quickly correcting himself. Adaeze didn't need a prophet to tell her what was happening. There was another woman And she wasn't just a passing affair, she was a threat, a full-blown invasion. But Adaeze was not a woman to be easily broken. Beneath her gentle exterior lay the steel of a warrior. She had fought poverty. She had birthed 3 children while standing beside a man who once slept in mechanic shops. She would fight this battle too, but not with noise. She folded her pain neatly beside her pillows and began to prepare. Not for a confrontation, but for consequences. Because this, dear child, is not just a tale of betrayal. It is a story of fire disguised as silence, of love twisted by greed, and of how the gods punish the ungrateful who abandon their roots for poisoned fruits. And so, our tale begins. The first time Adaeze saw her, it was on a Sunday afternoon in front of their home in Surulere. The sun was scorching and the street kids were chasing a deflated football, their laughter echoing across the compound. Adaeze was returning from church with her youngest, Chisom, when a sleek black Lexus pulled into their driveway, a car she had never seen before. The woman who stepped out was dressed in a tight red gown that shimmered like red blood. Her heels clicked confidently against the interlock pavement, each step a statement. She wore sunglasses that covered half her face, but Adaeze didn't need to see her eyes to feel the arrogance in her spirit. "Mommy, that's Daddy's friend," Chisom whispered, clutching Adaeze's hand tightly. Adaeze said nothing. She watched as the woman walked past her without greeting, phone in hand, hips swaying like she owned the ground. That night, Shuka came home with excuses. "She's just a business partner," he mumbled, avoiding her eyes. "Adaeze, don't start. You know how people in Lagos like to gossip." Ignore them. She did, for a while, but the signs multiplied. The calls at Hot House, the mysterious trip to Dubai, the hotel receipt in his pocket, the sudden increase in cologne, the flashy new wardrobe, and then, the most painful of all, the emotional absence. He stopped touching her, not physically, but spiritually. He no longer asked how her day went. He no longer noticed when she was sick. She was becoming invisible in her own home. One evening, after dinner, she found the courage to speak. "Shuka, what are we becoming?" He looked up from his phone, confused. "This marriage, this family, you act like we are a burden to you." Shuka's voice turned cold. "Adaeze, must everything be a fight with you? Must you always dig into things that don't concern you?" Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. "You are my husband. Your life concerns me." Shuka stood, flinging his chair back. "You are suffocating me, Adaeze. Let me breathe." That night, he slept in the guest room, and the following week, he stopped coming home altogether. Word got around fast. Lagos has ears in every keke napep and eyes behind every tinted glass. It wasn't long before Adaeze saw the pictures. Her husband at weddings, at clubs, at beaches, always with the woman in red heels. They said her name was Zara. She was an influencer, half his age, with over 200k followers on Instagram and a reputation for dating powerful men. Zara posted pictures of exotic dinners, luxury shopping sprees, and cryptic captions like, Don't be afraid to replace what's replaceable. Adaize's heart shattered pieces by pieces. But she didn't curse. She didn't scream. She didn't run to the church, wailing. She remembered the stories her grandmother told by moonlight about women who swallowed pain until it burned through their soul and turned into something powerful. She began to pray differently, not for her marriage, but for her mind, her strength, her children. And in the quiet corner of her spirit, something ancient began to stir. A force waiting, watching. Because this tale, dear child, is no ordinary Lagos love story. It is the making of a reckoning. Zara Chisom Ogundikpe was not an ordinary woman. She was the sort of beauty that could start wars in the boardroom and peace talk in the bedroom. At 28, she was already a household name in Lagos elite social circle. Not because she owned a company or led a movement, but because she mastered the Lagos name, aesthetics, attention, and access. Born to a wealthy but disconnected family in Lekki Phase 1, Zara was raised by housemates and Instagram. Her father, a former senator, had 7 children by 3 roommates, and her mother, a cosmetics entrepreneur, was always between Dubai and London sourcing products. Zara learned early that affection was transactional and power lived in perception. By the time she turned 23, she had cultivated her image to precision. Perfect curves, soft voice, and eyes that always seems to be hiding something. Her rise to fame came through a series of well-timed relationships with Lagos big boys, sugar daddies, politicians, musicians. But Shuka Obasi, it was different. It wasn't loud, it wasn't strategic, powerful in quiet ways. The type of men who preferred to sit back at high tables and let others make noise, while he controlled the money. She met him at a gala for a charity that supported widows. Of all things, she was there as a guest of a commissioner's son. Shuka was there as a major donor. Their eyes met across the hall. Not love at first sight, but something far more dangerous. Recognition. Zara knew what kind of man Shuka was. Married, successful, hungry for something he couldn't name. And she was the answer, or at least, that's what she made him believe. She did not chase him, she simply made herself unforgettable. When they finally exchanged numbers, it was Shuka who sent the first message. "There is something about you. I don't know what it is." Zara replied with a voice note. Soft, sultry, seasoned. "Maybe you're just tired of the usual." From that night, the chase ended. It fell hard. Zara moved like smoke into his life. She learned his routines, studied his emotional gaps, offered him laughter when he felt hot, silence when he was frustrated, and wild passion that made him feel young again. She felt his ego, not just his body. She whispered things like, "You are too powerful to be held back by a woman who doesn't understand your vision." Shuka, flattered and bewitched, began to believe it. He rented her an apartment in Lekki, furnished it with gold-accented sofas and velvet curtains. He gave her a monthly allowance that could pay a civil servant's yearly salary. Zara, in turn, played her role with surgical precision. But what Shuka didn't know was that Zara had a mentor, a retired society matron named Madame Eloho, who taught her that women like Daisy always think silence is a virtue. But silence can also be a curse if you don't know when to speak. Make him choose you, Heloha advice. Not just for the body, for the legacy. Destroy the old woman spirit if you must. Zara's plan was not just to enjoy Shuka. She wanted to replace Adaeze, become the official, wear the rings, inherit the empire. And Shuka, he was too blinded to see the trap. He stopped going home. He told friends that Adaeze no longer understood him, that she was bitter, nagging, old-fashioned. He began to entertain the idea of divorce. Meanwhile, Adaeze waited. She gathered every bank transaction, every flight record, every photo Zara posted with his wristwatch in the background. Not for revenge, not yet, but for strategy. Because you see, Adaeze had not only been a wife, she had been his partner, his foundation, his hidden strength. And what Shuka forgot was that while Zara played chess, Adaeze built the board. The reckoning had not yet begun, but its footsteps echoed closer each day. Surulere was never silent, even in the early hours of dawn. There was always the humming of Danfo's engine, the shouting of hawkers selling agege bread, and the distant beat of heartbeat from someone's radio. But in the Obasi home, silence had become a permanent resident. Adaeze sat on the edge of her bed, a wrapper tied tightly across her chest. The room, once filled with laughter, smelled faintly of lavender and sadness. Shuka's side of the bed remained untouched for weeks. His cologne still lingered in the closet. Our children noticed. Kamsi, the eldest at 16, had stopped asking when daddy would come home. He buried himself in schools and headphones. Chisom, the youngest, clung to her like a shadow, waking up in the middle of night whispering, "Mommy, is daddy dead?" It might as well be. Adaeze has spent the past 2 months pretending at PTA meetings, pretending at the Women's Fellowship, pretending to her own reflection. But now, her silence was morphing. It was no longer passive, it was deliberate. She started with the lawyer. Barrister Daramola had been a family friend for years. Sharp, principled, discreet. When Adaeze entered his Ikoyi office, dressed in a plain Ankara gown, head tie wrapped firm like an anchor, he knew the storm had arrived. "I'm not here to beg Shuka," she said. "I didn't think you were," Daramola replied, adjusting his glasses. "I'm here to prepare, not just for divorce, for war, if it comes to that." He leaned forward. "War? I want the children. I want the house. I want everything I helped him build. Because I have proof of everything." She dropped a brown envelope on the table. Inside were months of documentation, photos, financial records, voice notes, even screen recordings of Zara's Instagram lives that softly hinted at her sponsor. Daramola exhaled. "You've been watching." "I am my mother's daughter," she once said. "A woman who keeps quiet must also be ready to row when the time comes." Back in Lekki, Zara was dancing in her victory. She had just posted a video on her story. Her and Shuka on a yacht, laughing as they toasted champagne. "Soft life only," she captioned it. Her followers rained fire emojis and heart eyes. She didn't notice the subtle shift in comments. Is this not another woman's husband? Shameless. God is watching. But Zara didn't care. In a world, perception was currency, and she was cashing out. Chuka has promised to start filing for divorce. She believed she had won until she found the envelope. It was waiting for her at the door of her Lekki apartment. No name, no address, just a name handwritten in a familiar pen. Inside were pictures. Chuka kissing her neck. A note followed. Just in case you forgot, every queen sits on a throne someone bled to build. Zara's hand trembled for the first time. The glamour cracked. Because beneath all the lace front wigs, the luxury bags, the curated perfection, fear was a stranger. And now it had come home. Meanwhile, Adaeze stood on her balcony, staring into the humid Lagos night. She wasn't smiling, but her silence had finally started to scream. The Lagos sky had turned grey, thick with the promise of a storm. A humid breeze danced through the narrow streets of Surulere as Adaeze walked back from her meeting with Barrister Daramola. Each step felt heavy, not with defeat, but with intention. Something had shifted in her spirit. As she turned into her compound, the neighbors watched her from their verandas, some with sympathy, others with gossip ready on their tongues. She paid them no mind. Her step didn't falter. She opened her gate with her head held high. Her silence was no longer a shield. It was a weapon. Inside, Kamsi was helping Shizum with homework at the dining table. "Mommy!" Shizum called softly, running up to her. Adaeze crouched to hug her daughter, breathing in the child's innocence, something that still gave her strength. "How was school, my baby?" "Fine. They gave me star sticker for reading." She beamed. Kamsi looked up. "Welcome, Mom." Adaeze met his eyes. They were his father's eyes. But where Shuka's now held shadow, Kamsi held questions, silent questions, unspoken fears. "We will be fine," she said, not as reassurance, as fact. That night, after the children had gone to bed, Adaeze sat at her desk. She pulled out a journal, leather-bound, worn with use, and began writing. "The one of taking my life back. I have watched my home erode under the weight of betrayal, but I refuse to drown in silence. Let every line I write tonight be a seed for a future where I no longer apologize for staying strong." Meanwhile, across the bridge in Lekki, Zara was pacing. She had called Shuka 3 times. No response. "Where the hell are you?" She hissed into the phone, throwing it on the glass coffee table. The pictures from the envelope were spread out in front of her like a crime scene. Whoever sent them had done their homework. A new fear crept into her, not of losing Shuka, but of being exposed. A brand, a sponsors, a lifestyle depended on illusion. An illusion only held when no one could see behind the curtain. She picked up her phone and called Madam Heluho. "Who did you annoy?" the old woman asked. "I don't know. I think it's his wife." Eloha sighed. "I warned you. The real wife is never the one who heals. She's the one who waits and strikes. So what do I do? Discredit her. Fast. Turn Shuka against her completely. before she turns the public against you. And if that fails, find her weakness. Zara wiped her face. A mascara stained her palm. For the first time, the woman who lived for filtered perfection was unraveling in real time. Across town, Shuka sat alone in a hotel room, staring at his wedding ring on the bedside table. Zara had brought excitement, yes, but also chaos. He reached for his phone but paused. Adaize's face flashed in his mind. Calm, steady, pained. He missed that calm. Yes, he missed home, but pride was a tight collar. His phone buzzed. Baby, please call me. I'm scared. Someone is trying to ruin us. He stared at the message, then turned the phone off. Outside, thunder cracked because the storm had arrived.